Hi everyone, my name is Herkeph, and last week I died in my previous hardcore world in a rather anticlimactic way. In the last world, I set up a few rules. That being that I'm only allowed to use wooden tools and leather armor. And now you might be asking, why would you do that to yourself? To which I respond, because I am a very stupid young man. But even though we were only allowed to use wooden tools and leather armor, I still managed to survive for quite a while and build some decent things. But now that I'm done with our last world, I have decided to start a new hardcore world with the same rules. That's right, not only am I dumb enough to do it once, but twice. So I created the world and found myself in a plains biome, which was a very good start. I then quickly realized that there were two villages pretty much right next to where we spawned, which was a fact that helped fight off my crippling depression for a split second. Naturally, I scuttled over in glee, until I realized that I hadn't punched my first tree yet. Once the tree had been masterfully chopped, I made myself a set of tools and grabbed myself 3 pieces of dirt. I then attacked the village's iron golem and collected his crusty remains. And since I was in a village, I decided to run around and steal anything I thought might be useful. I then bounced over to the second village that we had seen from spawn, and repeated the process of harassing the village iron golem using a fragile wooden paddle, and stole some lava that they had lying around for some reason. I then used said lava to offer the local wildlife a promotion, and successfully promoted some cows to become executive steaks. I ate some bread in order to grow up big and strong like mum, and continued my adventure in hopes of finding a lava pool. I then almost immediately hit an ocean, which meant that I would have to continue my adventure by boat, so I crafted a luxury yacht and continued as I did. I then ran into a ruined nether portal, which I had a quick look into. I managed to find myself some fire charges and a golden apple. However, I decided that I wouldn't need the golden apple for some reason. I am not entirely sure why I left it there. But here we are, though shortly after we had bumbled our way through terrain, I managed to spot a lava pool, which was, of course, very exciting. So I built up the nether portal and ran off to chop some trees whilst I waited for the portal to light. I then crafted myself my first shield and a few axes to go through to the nether. I then found myself in a nether wastes bio, which was a very nice start. So with a boat in hand, I started our journey to find a nether fortress. I then went on to explore the nether for 1,174 seconds, or roughly 20 minutes, though it sounds more intense when I say the number of seconds, so that's what I'll roll with. And after said 1,174 seconds, I managed to find a nether fortress. So I scuttled in and spanked some blazes in hopes of them giving me their rod, and after a while I had managed to get a decent number of blaze rods. So I started my journey back to the nether portal that I came from, and on my way back I found yet another nether fortress, but this one was in a soul sand valley, which is perfect in case we would want to make a wither farm in the future, so I saved the location. However, on my way back, I noticed that I was completely lost, so I checked the coordinates that we had saved for our nether portal and started digging a tunnel. But after a very long time of tunneling through the nether, I finally emerged and was greeted by an angry moaning cloud who almost killed me. However, I did manage to make my way back to the overworld, so I once again utilized my luxury yacht and ran back to the villages that I found earlier. From there, I set up a temporary chest to store all of my junk that I had accumulated and boated along a river to collect clay. I then traded said clay for emeralds, which in turn, I used to level up the village cleric. However, after spending a bunch of my hard-earned emeralds, the cleric decided to not give me an ender pearl trade. So I did the only reasonable thing there was to do and drowned the village cleric. I know, I am a very kind young man. I then leveled up another cleric who decided to give me an ender pearl trade, which I thought was a rather good choice on his part. So I traded my way up to 14 ender pearls and a bow along with a few stacks of arrows. I then started my adventure to find the stronghold. Once the Eyes of Ender had led me to a forest, I started excavating in search of the stronghold. I dug straight down, but did not manage to find the stronghold. I did so again, a few blocks to the side, and was faced with the exact same story. At this point, I was rather annoyed that I couldn't find the stronghold and decided to continue digging straight down to hopefully find it eventually. And on my third attempt, I did manage to find the stronghold. And after a short exploration within the stronghold, I managed to find the portal room. So I set down a chest as well as my bed and jumped into the end. I then proceeded with the task of killing the dragon, which I did by shooting all of the end crystals and spanking the dragon's belly with my fragile wooden paddle, only taking breaks to wait for the dragon to descend. But after a lot of faffing around, I managed to kill the Ender Dragon. I was then showered by the dragon's balls and decided to steal the dragon egg. I then made my way through the end gateway, set my field of view to Quake Pro, and got onto the main task of this episode, finding an end city along with an elytra. After a bit of exploring, I did manage to find an end city, but it did not have a ship, meaning no elytra. It was rather disappointing, but I figured that I will probably run into another end city relatively quickly, which I did. However, the next one I found did not have a ship either, which was rather frustrating. So I continued my journey, and after a few minutes, I managed to find my third city of this world, but this one did not have a ship either. This same thing then happened the fourth time I found an end city. However, luck did finally turn, and the fifth end city did actually have a ship, meaning I could finally get my elytra and not have to walk like an absolute peasant. So I pillared my way up to the boat directly, stole my first elytra of this world, and crafted a couple of shulker boxes to free up some of my inventory space. I then decided to loot the rest of the end city in hopes of getting some shulker shells, as well as obsidian from the ender chests I came across. I then proceeded to raid a few more end cities, and once my immense greed had been fed, I made my way back through an end gateway and went back to the stronghold. Once in the stronghold, I located the libraries and decided to steal all of the books I could get my hands on. This was, of course, incredibly thrilling and exciting to do with my completely unenchanted wooden tools. And after I had collected all the books, I jumped back into the end portal and found myself back at where I initially spawned. I then picked up the things that I had stored away in a temporary chest and headed off in hopes of finding a good spot for our starter base. And after a bit of exploring, I managed to find a really nice bowl shape with a bunch of cherry trees, which looked rather pleasing. So I chopped one of the cherry trees down and picked up all of the saplings I could. I've actually never used cherry wood for any base or house before, so I was a bit out of my depth, but I was determined to do it. I did a tiny bit of building in my creative world and settled on a block palette that used cherry wood. So I then jumped into the nether and started collecting the materials that I would need to construct my starter base. But now it was about time to start settling down and build my starter base. And there we have it, the first episode of my second incredibly stupid hardcore world. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next one.